Hello, I am Samantha Tomlinson.
And I'm Kevin Tracy. Welcome back to Movie Reel, folks.
So, if you listen to our last one, you probably, I think we said in that one we could talk but couldn't record, and this week,
And we
we,
couldn't, we could talk, we could record, but we couldn't talk. We literally spent a good, I want to say 2.5 to 3 hours just trying to get our stuff to work.
I think about an hour of it was trying to get it to work, and the other hour was talking on the phone, talking about other movies, and then, like, making fun of Ice Fantasy.
Yeah, which I'm not doing that for this podcast.
Why?
It's 62 episodes of a Korean drama that I don't remember what happened. I watched 2 episodes of that with my roommates and we couldn't even figure out what was going on.
I just like the part with the fake sheep.
That was one scene and you could find a gif of that probably.
Maybe. I mean, who knows? Um,
So you want to watch an entire series based entirely on a singular scene.
yeah. Isn't that
Oh,
I feel like I make that decision a lot.
oh god. No.
Well, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about the Oscar-nominated movie 1917. Uh, we just recently saw this, and this was a fantastic movie. I was glued to this movie from beginning to end.
So 1917 has about 10 Oscar nominations. Um,
Yeah, that sounds about right.
which oh my god, it's my bet it's I think it's winning best picture. I think it's going to win best director, and best cinematography. I'm trying to think of what other movie has. I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen every single best picture or best cinematography movie, but I would be very very shocked if this doesn't win.
I mean, I literally all the ones that I've seen that were nominated for Best Picture, we have coincidentally covered on this show. That being Joker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and now 1917.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe the cinematography in Irishman or Marriage Story is amazing. Who knows?
Yeah,
I guess we'll
isn't
whatever.
isn't Jojo Rabbit also nominated?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted to see that. That looked really funny because I love Taika Waititi. I loved What We Do in the Shadows. That is
Oh, that's him.
hilarious. Yeah, and he also plays as the vampire who's like in love with a woman who's like now in a retirement home because he got there too late.
Is he is this in the movie or the show?
The movie, I don't know if he's directly connected to the show or not. I haven't actually seen the show.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah, no,
because I want to watch the movie, and I know that Mark Hamill is going to apparently be in the show. So I
yeah, I
really
heard
want
about that too. So I'm really now I really want to see the show because the movie is hilarious.
to. Yeah.
And for those of you who not know what we're talking about, Into the Shadows is literally a mockumentary of a group of vampires in Australia going through their daily lives, and it's kind of like a comedy, kind of similar to The Office. There are vampires, and vampires exist in this world as well as like vampires and other stuff like that. But the general public is like isn't aware of their existence, and it's just really funny of how they go about their daily lives. Like, oh yeah, so we always try to like bring people over for a bite to eat. See what I did there, and then they just eat their dinner guests.
That happens. That line happens.
Like like not word for word, but like pretty similar. It's really funny
Um
because like, at one point like they have like this like ancient vampire in their basement and they just call him Peter. And their like dinner guest like gets out of there. It's like, oh man, we got him now. It's like, and then Peter just shows up, jumps out of the bush, and just like tackles him, like, oh shit, who lets pizza out?
yeah, the director for he how do you say his name?
It's like Taika Waititi.
Taco yeah, he's just become a rock star ever since
He-
Thor Ragnarok.
yeah,
And
which that was a really fun movie.
um yeah, and yeah, so I'm assuming okay, maybe he would maybe win if he's nominated for best directing, but I haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, so I can't judge that. But yeah, so 1917, which is the movie we're talking about today. So this takes place in it's about a day, little less, little more, no, a little
Yeah,
less.
yeah,
Yeah.
the entire time frame takes place like within 24 hours, roughly.
And it specifies in the beginning. This is April 6th, and I looked on IMDb after, so that April 6th is the day that I guess the U.S. like declared war. Like that was when they started to
Yeah,
join.
I
Um,
I admittedly know very little history, like the specific details about World War One. I mainly know that the U.S. like we didn't enter the war until like the last 3 months of it. No,
hash.
we were yeah no we were there like so late. By the time we were there, it's just like, well, whoever we join is basically gonna win because both sides were completely devastated, both resources and personnel wise. That is like, yeah, no, like we were pretty much there to just make a final push, and we did, and that was it. That was the end of the war.
I like World War I. I think it's. I mean, World War II is definitely interesting for sure, but I think most can agree that a a major player, a major reason World War II is super infamous is because of the Holocaust and Hitler, which
Yeah,
is its
well,
own
yeah,
mess. It's messed up and fascinating as like any war, anything related to war. But World War I, I think, is just so interesting because the whole goal of it is to. It's such a different type of war. There has been
yeah,
it's. I mean, it is the first World War. There has been no type of war like this. The entire goal of it is to end it as quickly as possible. So,
yeah. No,
yeah,
this war, it pretty much set the stage for like all modern types of warfare. Even though
tanks,
yeah,
machine guns.
even though they
Yeah,
mixed it with like ancient, like not ancient, but like warfare for that time, like they still had like cavalry charges into like machine gun nests, like, oh, like they were mixing old tactics with new technology and just getting completely devastated through that. And it was just a really interesting way because the entire war was just a constant case of one-upsmanships, like, oh, like we developed lethal gas, like, well, we
hmm.
developed gas masks, and
Didn't
we
people like
developed,
go insane?
yeah, no, it
Which is
was
not so like
a
I mean,
brutal war.
I feel like the two wars where I hear I feel like any war really you can, but I feel like the two wars that I hear the most of people like the in having mental issues after were World War I and I guess Vietnam, which has become. I mean, all jokes. I mean, it's become kind of cliche,
Yeah,
honestly, with the like Vietnam flashbacks.
yeah,
But in
it
reality,
became a
like
stereotype, but it was based in reality. But
yes,
yeah, World War One was a extremely devastating war, and they fully showcase that like front and center in this movie of these two armies that like these two like groups of people like Germans and British. We don't really see like any French in this movie, or like very little, but it's pretty much like whenever you see like the Germans or the British, like primarily the British, they absolutely hate being there, and all they're doing is just sitting in a trench. And they even just talk about it's like, oh, what's next? We're gonna push forward and capture 100 feet of land. Fantastic, and we only lost 1,000 men. Oh yeah, that sounds like a good trade off.
they're it's interesting. Yeah, so this whole movie though is an interesting war movie because it's not just like uh it's not some like there are definitely themes and uh messages that I saw in it, but it's not really it wasn't really about that. It was just
Yeah,
simply about these two soldiers having to go across enemy territory in no man's land, which is open space as well as any whatever
yeah,
horrors are there to get a
yeah. Just
message.
full. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
that
No,
like yeah.
when they crossed no man's land, that was when I like fully like realized like this is going to be like a beautiful movie to watch. I mean, that is a weird thing to think about when they're crossing no man's land because that is such a horrific sight. Like they're literally crossing
Mhm.
over dead horses and dead bodies and like all these like scorch and burn marks and crossing through these like mazes of uh, uh razor wire and barbed
Yeah.
fences. It's
So,
just
yes.
it was everywhere, and it was just like this is such a cool shot to look at. And I remember they spent so much money,
Oh my
uh,
god, yeah,
so much money of their budget, like, just went towards creating, like, the battlefields and, like, the huge, like, expanse where they were filming. Because the sets that they made were, like I think they were just, like, made, like, in real in locations there, and
yeah,
they just, like,
so
brought in,
yeah,
like, all these, like, ruined, like, artillery tanks, like, artillery shells and, cannons and, like, busted up tanks. It's just like this looked so authentic and so real because it was, and it's just this is such a really cool like movie visually to watch and to listen to because of how much detail that they put into it.
yeah, and, there was a I was watching this the other day, there was a it's on YouTube, it's basically about, like, how 1917 able to capture this in what looks like one single shot, and
Yeah.
they talk about so it was months and months of prep because for, like, choreography and blocking and rehearsal, on top of
Oh,
that
I can believe that. Yeah.
yeah, and we'll get more into that in a second, but, like, um, as well as, like, the production, like, they dug a mile of trench, and they built for pretty much every location because they do not use the same location twice. I will
No,
say the
not at all.
beginning and the end, it's supposed to be, like, a full circle, and they're similar locations, but they are different places. And
Yeah.
like they built small sets of each place just to get like it was an insane endeavor. And didn't mention this before, but I also found out that so the cinematographer for this was the one who I'm spacing on his name. He won the Oscar. He did the cinematography for Blade Runner 2049,
Oh yeah, I still
which
need to see that.
we have to do. That movie's oh god, it's so good. I'm
Yeah.
iffy with the first Blade Runner. I don't really know what happened in that movie. Or I know what
Did,
happened, but I
did you
don't.
fall asleep or something?
No, it just went over my head. I had no idea what was going on. And part of that
Okay.
I blame myself for because I was rushing to watch it because
Oh, okay.
one of our teachers in college offered extra credit for if you go see the new It and watch the original It, or go see the new Blade Runner and watch the new Blade Runner, and like you had to write a paper on it. And I'm like, well, the original It's a mini series. I'd have to
Yeah.
purchase it and go out of my
Have
way
you
rather than watch a movie. And
yeah, have you still not seen the original It with Tim
I
Curry?
no, I want to. I just didn't want to watch until after I've seen the new movie, which I know is kind of you've expressed your opinions to me about it. I just kind of don't want to. I don't know what happens, and I kind of want to keep it that way.
Okay, that's fair.
But anyway, so yeah, I did 2049, and everybody. I watched the movie. I watched the first Blade Runner. I had really no. I don't know. It just went right over my head, and then I got told after. Yeah, it's kind of a movie you got to watch a few times before it
Yeah,
sinks in. I'm like, okay.
yeah, I've heard the same thing. I admittedly haven't seen, but I saw it once, like a long time ago, and I honestly don't remember fully what happened. I do remember like some like the stuff that happened. Like there's like the theory that Harrison Ford was a replicant this whole time, and then
Yeah,
there's like a different version where like there's like a scene in that where like he wasn't a replicant and that scene was the evidence. So just and it's all yeah, it entirely matters which version of the movie you've seen. Like there's the final cut, there's the director's cut, and there's like the theatrical cut. And it's
yeah,
I don't remember which one I saw.
it's a little problematic because we will we'll do a Blade Runner episode and we'll talk about it more, but
Yeah,
it was definitely like there were uh director decisions versus actor, what Harrison Ford wanted slash things certain things didn't quite make sense. I don't we should, we'll get into it eventually. But
yeah,
but
but
yeah, so the cinematographer for 1917 did 2049, and I remember just my mind whole 2049 is phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, honestly, even if you haven't seen the first Blade Runner, I think you could probably follow the movie.
Yeah,
It's pretty solid. But anyway,
yeah. From what I heard, it's like a pretty much a self-contained movie. Just takes place in the same universe after the event. Like what, like 30, 40 years
it
after the events of the
yeah, and
first
you
one.
get enough information that you can watch the movie. Other than okay, Harrison Ford and this woman had kind of a relationship in the movie. That's all you really need to know, and you get that in the movie. But anyway, yeah. So the cinematography, of course, for that was amazing. So when I found out that it was the same cinematographer, I was like, oh my god, that's cool. I just watched a video on it. So anyway, yeah, the 1917 was an insane endeavor, and it all kind of goes back to the fact that the cinematography really I mean, it was probably going to be an endeavor no matter what. It's a war movie,
Yeah.
but the cinematography is not, there's no easy task
Oh no,
in
this
movie
movie
making,
was
but
they put so much effort into this movie that it blew me away because it got to a point where I was watching the movie trying to like I was like, okay, when are they going to make the cut for like the next scene? And I kept focusing on that and then like having to like split my focus between like the actual story of like what was going on and like waiting for like the next cut. I was still able to like fully enjoy the movie for what it was and like what was going on. And also, like a side note, I really liked this movie because even though it's a war movie, it doesn't really focus like on the war. Like it doesn't glorify the war like a lot of like war
yeah,
movies,
yeah,
which I thought was really cool because I thought like, oh, this is going to be like a dramatic like action movie going into this.
which
Like
is what a
no,
lot of war movies are.
yeah.
To be
Like I was
honest,
expecting it's like two men against all odds have to
yeah,
cross
and
territory to deliver a
that's
message. Otherwise, an entire battalion is going to get
and
destroyed.
that goes
Will
all
they
the
make
way,
it? You
yeah.
find out.
And that goes all the way back to the cinematography. So I remember it made me. I thought about this after, I think either during or after I saw the movie. I remember. I don't know if you remember this when in our screenwriting class junior year when we
Yeah,
watched The Graduate, and I remember for me we were watching it for the story, but for me I
yeah.
remember I was the most blown away by the cinematography, and I remember making a comment. Go away, my cat. I made a
Oh, that's so
comment.
not professional.
I made a comment. I mean, she's nice and I love her, but shh. Um,
Get out
I
of here.
oh man. I made a
So you made a
comment
comment, yeah.
saying how we were all talking about how certain characters, if this was any other movie, certain characters would have had more of a role, or they would have even just we would have explored what's going on in their heads a little more. And I remember
Yeah,
being the one saying, "Well, think of the cinematography. The cinematography seemed to focus mostly on Ben, so it kind of made sense why it didn't focus on any. Like I kind of made some comment about the cinematography tying with the character and the story, and no one really responded to it. I remember the teacher was just like, "Okay," like I'm like. Am I insane for thinking that? And then watching 1917, I had realized it's kind of the same thing because I feel like if this was any other movie, yeah, if this was different director, different cinematography, it would have cut between our two soldiers and maybe the group that they're trying to go get the message to. It would
yeah,
have shown ahead of time what they see. Like the cinematography was really truly it it definitely was a kind of a defining element in this movie because it told the story. It was trying to keep it like have us one like POV, like have
yeah.
one person's
I,
perspective.
and I really like that because part of me was thinking like, oh, are they going to like show like some like the Germans' perspectives like during this war? But it's like no, it the entire movie literally focuses on just these two guys and that's it. I thought that was like a really fun
Yeah,
like easy narrative to follow along. Um,
I
and I
started.
just yeah
Oh, sorry, you go.
yeah no, it was just really fun watching these two guys because from at first they are two very different people. Like one of them is kind of naive and from what I gather is like kind of new to this or like hasn't really seen
Yeah,
like that much combat. And the other guy, he's been in there for months and months and
yeah,
he's like got a medal. He had like a medal and like he traded it off. He's like, oh no, it's useless, it's just a piece of like tin and ribbon, and
I think,
he's just very
yeah.
much a pessimist. As like, no, I've seen that, like, what goes on here. Like, I've seen, like, what's going on. You don't know shit about this war. And
So
like,
yeah,
it was just really cool, kind of seeing like the two different points of view of this war from two different characters.
yeah. So the very beginning, we have our two main characters. They're just kind of sitting, sleeping, relaxing by a tree. Your sergeant comes over and says hey, we need you. Like the general wants to see you guys. And he's like, and he tells him pick pick somebody. And so their names aren't mentioned much. The one that we see the most is Lance Corporal Schofield.
Yeah,
The other one Blake.
yeah.
So Blake
Uh,
picks Schofield, and this is kind of our first. We're just watching them. They're walking through the trenches, and it's this. I think this is kind of really when actually no, what it really was when they go to talk to the general, who is
oh,
Colin
and but
Firth.
yeah, the general is Colin Firth, and I thought it was really funny because it's like I mainly remember him as Galahad from Kingsman, and it was really funny because later on in the movie we meet the guy who played Merlin in the Kingsman movies.
So the entire there are Blake and
Schofield.
Schofield are there. So Sam Mendes, I guess they won. It was either at the Golden Globes or the BAFTA Awards, which was a few nights ago. I
Yeah,
think it was Golden Globes. He said he wanted to cast two unknowns, and they both have done stuff. I know the actor who's Blake.
yeah.
He was in
I've
Game of
seen him
Thrones.
around. Yeah, I've seen him a bit. I don't remember Schofield. He does look familiar, but I'd have to like look up like his like IMDb to fully
Yeah. Um,
recognize what he's done.
but pretty much everyone else. So the general is Colin Firth. The commander that they're trying to get a hold of to send the message to is
Is uh
Benedict Cumberbatch.
yeah, which I had no idea he was in this movie at
Really,
all. So it's like
he was in the trailer. I knew he was
I
in this movie. Yeah.
it's like I must have seen like like an early version, because the only face that I recognized was Colin Firth in like the beginning
Yeah.
of the movie. Um, but yeah, it's like as soon as he showed up, I was like, oh, it's like cool, it's Loki, or
Oh,
no, it's not Loki, it's
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. I'm gonna get so much hate for
Like
that.
Loki. And then Mark Strong, who's Captain Smith, who they pick up. He picks up Schofield later at the farmhouse, and my dad whispered to me he was in Sherlock, and I'm like, what? He then I realized no, he was in Sherlock Holmes. He was Lord Blackwood. He was the bad guy in Sherlock
Oh yeah,
Holmes, and I'm like,
the
okay,
movie with
Robert Downey
uh
Jr.
yeah, Robert Downey
Which
Jr.
we should do that. I love that movie. But anyway,
Yeah, those are I okay. I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna get me hate. I didn't really care for the first Sherlock Holmes movie. I admittedly fell asleep during that movie.
I had to watch it a few times before I fully I don't think I thought it was boring. I just think certain parts of it just kind of
It
went over my head. I had to
I,
watch it a couple times before I like really loved
yeah.
it. But anyway, yeah.
It kind of dragged on for me, but I absolutely loved the second one.
Really, I thought
Game of Shadows.
I like the first one better.
It's like, well, I guess we can't be friends anymore.
So so yeah, pretty much everybody like major so captains, commanders, all those people are pretty well known actors, whereas everyone else is kind of unknown.
Unknown. Yeah.
And then so when they go to talk to the general, this is kind of when I first really started thinking about how the blocking must how that itself was its own like endeavor, because I was wondering, because I realized I'm like pretty I don't know when I think it was in this scene. I was literally thinking, if we could easily get a bunch of like rotating shots, like the camera's like spinning around, and that's
Yeah.
gonna get old really quick. I like those shots, but not when they're overused.
I felt like it was used like a very appropriate amount in this
Yeah,
movie.
it was used a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, it was used quite a few times, but it was mainly just to like get like these like showcase like these beautiful landscape shots.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, it's like, please do that, show more. Like it got to a point where it's like I wanted to I focused more on the location more than the characters because of how much
Yeah.
detail and how great it looked.
Yeah.
And it's just like, can we just stay here for a bit longer? I
Yeah.
really want to. I want to look at this more,
But in this
please.
scene, so this is why I think where they said there was probably a cut. They went into like a dark room, so they probably could easily make a cut in there. But they
Yeah,
it was on, so it's the camera, we see the backs of the soldiers, it's on Colin Firth. He then moves to another table, and he's then he's then his back's to the camera, and the soldiers come around, because I was like, oh my god, because I was wondering, I'm like,
yeah,
how are we going to see their faces again, because based on commercials and trailers I knew we saw their faces again. And the fact that I think I just was appreciating that they weren't going out of their way to do rotating shots, because that
yeah.
was like, like I said, it was going to get old. So he tasked them, basically they have a mission. 15, it was like 15 or 1600 men. Blake's brother, who's a lieutenant, with them, they're
With
preparing.
the second battalion, I
Who
think is what it
this
is. Yeah,
this was Richard Madden. And I remember seeing on IMDb that Richard Madden was Lieutenant Blake in this. But then I kept, every time I saw a trailer, I'm like, where is he? Why am I not seeing him? And then it finally clicked. Oh, he's the brother. I don't know
yeah.
why that took me so long to figure out, but it finally, I'm like, oh. But because I love Richard Madden, who was also in Game of Thrones and Bodyguard, and he was in Rocket Man this past summer.
Yeah.
He's got a. I'm a huge fan of Richard Madden, so I was excited for him.
He's got a pretty solid
Rep, yeah.
yeah.
Um, so basically, they have to get a message to this other
Battalion. Yeah.
battalion. I wanted to say battalion, but I was worried that was the wrong word.
Yeah, no, it was an entire, it's like second company, and if they don't make it, they will lose an entire battalion.
And so they just had to go across no man's land, and they're like, why just us two? And it's like, because it's a lot, not as noticeable to send two as opposed to like a couple, like 50.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's easier to sneak two guys across the terrain rather than like an entire like squad or a division or something like that.
and we're seeing them, then they're on their way out. They're, again, more trenches, and it's just blown, like your mind's just blown, like how long it's like a legit mile, like about how much time it probably took to dug that and all that. And you're seeing all these various types of soldiers, and then when right before they leave, yeah, we meet the ones who are very like, there was some humor in it that I did like. There
Yeah.
was a joke where he was Leslie, who was like Lieutenant or Sergeant Leslie or something, or Commander Leslie.
Yeah, it was like something like lieutenant. It's like, all right, we're gonna give you these flare guns, but they're so expensive. Just toss them back before you die. It's like, and then later on, they like fire off the flare. It's like, up yours, lieutenant, and he fires off the flare and like toss it in the mud.
But I do like the joke of, he's like, what day is it? And I'm like, Friday. He's like, oh, okay. This idiot thought it was Tuesday.
It's like, sorry, sir.
And yeah, and I think we I think we already kind of talked about No Man's Land, but it was, we're seeing mud, dead horses, a couple dead bodies caught in barbed wire. It is brutal, and they're told like, oh, watch out for the craters, they're deeper than you think. And I don't remember what part it was, but you're seeing all these dead people, dead horses, all this craziness, and then they're like stepping in all this mud. And I remember at one point my dad went, ew. And I'm like, wait, you think that's what's gross, is the mud? Yeah. Like, really?
Well, it got to a point where, like, as they're like crossing No Man's Land, where it got to a point where you couldn't tell if like what was mud and like what was like a buried body, because there were like parts like there was so much like everywhere that you couldn't really tell where you were stepping in or on. And one of the characters, he like cuts his hand on like some like barbed wire fencing, and like he like trips, and like his whole hand like falls inside of a corpse.
Oh yeah, so it goes in the barbed wire.
Like, oh my god.
And he wraps it up, and I'm literally, all I was thinking of was like, that's gonna get infected. And then it
Yeah,
later falls on a corpse. And I'm like, now that's really gonna get infected.
I know, and I saw this with my dad, and I was talking to him. Is like I was like kind of half expecting, it's like, oh, is that going to be like a major issue like later on in the movie? Because I was thinking, it's like, oh no, wait, this movie is only going to be like 24 hours. Like that's not long enough for that to be a problem yet.
I mean,
Uh,
it could have gone that way, but I feel like it, like, it has pretty much one storyline. It's
yeah,
very straightforward, and I like that. I like straightforward. I like straightforward single linear storylines where it's
yeah.
just this
It
is
was
the
a
focus.
singular, easy to follow narrative. Yeah,
It's not even just easy to follow, but it's just like it's simple, especially when
yeah,
it's surrounded by all this chaos. Um, and so yeah, they get through no man's land. There's that one scene where they find it's where the battalion was. Right, it's where the battalion was kind of like hiding out. It's like their own trench and whatnot, and they find
oh
like a
yeah,
kind of a
yeah, yeah,
homestead and beds.
yeah. They found like the previous like Germans like barracks, and it's
Oh,
just like a
that was Germans' barracks.
yeah, because they were crossing into like German territory.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the previous, like that was the battalion, like that's where they were, and the
No,
tripwire was so that the Germans, if any Germans got in, they would.
no,
Oh, okay.
yeah, no, because like literally everything like written on like the walls is like all written in German, and all the artillery is faced towards
Oh,
the British.
okay. Okay. Yeah, that trip that was, oh my god. So they hit some tripwire, and Blake just gets knocked back, but Schofield's just covered in like uh pieces of
Yeah, he gets buried
inside
in a
of,
bunch of rubble.
and
Yeah,
they
he
then
almost dies.
and then the whole thing is starting to come down. So they have it's but it's also, I think I love this part. He's trying to lead Blake's trying to lead him out, and so Schofield is like so much dust in his eye he can't even see, and and Blake's just like, you gotta trust me, like, and it's
Yeah,
they do have this really they have this really solid relationship. We don't really know much about it, how long they've been together, or how well
yeah.
they know each other, but
Yeah, but
they
from what we've seen, they're like really good friends, and they genuinely trust each other, because like they've put their each other's lives in each other's hands like multiple times throughout this movie, and it's like, all right, these guys are brothers in arms. These are comrades, and it's like it was a really cool relationship and dynamic, and I was rooting for these guys the entire movie.
and yeah, for sure. And when they get out, and Sylvie's like, "Why did you pick me?" And Blake's like, "I didn't know." Yeah, like that's fair. He had no idea. They just said, "Hey, pick somebody. You're gonna do something." And
Yeah,
that's fair. He did not know. He's
yeah,
like, "I
because he
thought it would
later on
be
says,
easy."
yeah, it's like I thought it'd be easy. I thought we were gonna go get food or get the mail or something. I didn't know we were going to be doing this like potentially suicide mission.
So yeah, they they keep going. They're starting to like kind of definitely relax a little bit. They're joking, and there's these planes. They keep seeing like they're it's their planes. It's like British
Yeah,
fires,
yeah, yeah. They see some like British biplanes, and then
and
eventually they see a German biplane.
and then they reach the farmhouse. Or does anything else happen before that? They reach the farmhouse, which
No, before that they come across like where the Germans had like their like artillery, like all their cannons, which that's probably like one of my favorite shots in the whole movie, of just like all these like piles of like these huge artillery shells, because like the artillery shells that they have there, they're like they're huge. They're like a good like foot and a half like long, and
mhm.
they're pretty thick. They're giant, like used like copper casings, or metal casings. I don't know what they're made of, but the quantity of all of them, it just shows like how long these Germans have been here, and they're just constantly bombarding the British side, and they destroyed all their artillery, so the British won't be able to use it. And it was just such a cool shot seeing them as they exited like the barracks that the Germans had. Um, I absolutely loved that shot. Did you have any thoughts on that?
I'm spacing on that scene. I'm sure
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm like I remember they get out of they get out of the German barracks, and they fire the flare to let them know they got through, and they toss it, and then
Yeah,
they keep going. I
it's like
think
screw you, Lieutenant.
I'm kind of spacing on that scene. I'm
Yeah,
sure like if I watch it again, I'd be like, oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, there's the shots in this movie are just amazing, and like it's mind blowing. The things that we see. I'm just thinking though, what was the goal? What are the again? I wouldn't say I like history. I wouldn't say I'm a history buff, but
Wait, are you?
what's the goal of World War One? Like,
Uh, the pretty much it was just a mounting conflict because of
I know the trigger. I just don't know what the whole
the assassination of
Franz Ferdinand. I know like that
yeah
much.
yeah by the
It
Black
was
Hand, I think.
yes. It was like Gava. I know it starts with a G. I remember that. I
Yeah,
remember was talking about this in high school.
yeah,
I just
but
what was
yeah,
the overall goal? Like, what were the German trying to accomplish?
I think they just kind of like wanted like submission from like the other countries. I don't really know
Hmm.
what the main end goal was, and that's one of the reasons why the war went on for so long.
Let us
Was
know in the comments, people, if you know.
yeah, I know I should know this, and I kind of feel bad that I don't know
Yeah.
what the overall goal is, and I'm a little embarrassed about that. But yeah, no, like for the most part, it wasn't like global supremacy, but it was just kind of like it was just more or less just kind of like a dick measuring contest between like the world leaders, because for the most part, from what I remember, a lot of them were like related to one another, like the the British Prime Minister was like second cousins with like the German like a couple like the German generals. It was just like they all more or less hated each other, and this was like their way of like, oh, I'm going to show you my country's the best. No, my country's the best, and it just kept escalating to the point where it just turned into an armed conflict that
Yeah.
really had no end in sight or
It
no
was
real goal.
it was just dawning on me. Like I know who's a player. I know the trigger, and I feel like I know all the pieces. I just don't know what's the point. That's what
Yeah,
I'm like. Did that ever come up in class? Um,
yeah, no, it pretty much is just like their main goal was to like we need to defeat the enemy. It's like why do we need to defeat them? Because they're our enemy.
yeah.
It just
Oh,
kind of it just kind of circled in on itself. There
yeah,
wasn't really any other goal besides that. It's like we need to beat them so we can get them more resources so we can fight everyone else.
yeah.
It was the whole thing was just a dick measuring contest from what
Okay,
I
okay. Um, what a way to
I
put it.
don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know how else.
to say, yeah.
Yeah, to say it. If I'm
So yeah,
and if I'm completely wrong, I am sorry.
I just what was it? I remember so our friend Aaron had said something about something in World War One happened like a few days before what would have been his birthday, and I didn't know how to respond, so I just went, the Krusty Krab 2 opened up on my birthday.
Oh my
Is that
god.
anything?
No, and I think I could be wrong, but I think he was referring to the Christmas truce during World War One, which is probably like one of my favorite like history facts that I know. That I do know something about World War One. Around Christmas time, there was like a unofficial official truce between the British front line and the German front line, and they actually met in no man's land and were like playing like football, and they were exchanging beer, they were drinking, they were smoking, they were celebrating, and they basically had like a ceasefire for Christmas that day.
That's so sweet and beautiful. Yet
Yeah, and
that's so weird because then the next day, like,
yeah, it back to business as usual. But yeah, it was like as far as I know, like no other armed conflict like that has had a unanimous ceasefire that wasn't like sanctioned by like the like top brass by like their generals. It was just like it's like you know what, I'm tired, I'm singing, and then like the British started singing, and then the Germans started singing, and then they started singing together, and then they both held up like a white flag, and then they met in the middle, and they celebrated Christmas together.
what year is that?
I don't remember. That might have been 1916 or
Yeah.
1915. It was relatively early in the war, I think.
Okay.
Um, that I'm actually going to look that up. because I don't want to be wrong anymore about history facts. Because I know someone's going to be is like, how do you not know this?
Yeah, I'm just gonna look this up now.
Yeah, it's the Christmas truce of 1914. The Christmas truce was a series of widespread unofficial ceasefires along the Western Front of the First World War
Oh,
around Christmas of 1914. The week leading up to the 25th, French, German, and British soldiers crossed trenches to exchange seasonal greetings and talk.
so World War One started in 1914 and ended in 1918.
Yep.
So America was in it for like a little over a year ish.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Meanwhile, everyone else was just like
finally,
they
yeah.
were all in.
Um. Anyway, so we our characters they arrive at the farmhouse. Where right away, actually, I don't. So first, two things. So right away, Schofield's like, I don't like this, and you kind of are expecting someone to jump out, and you see
Yeah.
like from like toys and like there's a dead dog. Like a family was living here, and whether they were killed or just all left, um, who knows? Um, it
Yeah.
made me think of just the fact that it was a German farmhouse. It made me think of I told you how a couple weeks ago I was watching BuzzFeed's they do a couple of original series, and one's called uh Unsolved. It's like true crime, and there's this one. It's one of the first few episodes. It's really interesting, but it creeps me out so much. It was
Yeah.
in 19 like 22 Bavaria, and this like family was found dead in their home, and the baby and like the housekeeper house whatever the was found, sorry,
Yeah.
disrespectful, the
The maid.
maid type, I don't know exactly what she was, but she was found dead in her bed along with the baby found dead in their bed, and the family was all stacked up in like the barn, and there's evidence that suggests that the killer was living in the house after, because food was being eaten and cattle was still being taken care of, and people saw smokes from the chimneys, and there's
I
on
vaguely
seven
remember hearing about
and
this. Yeah.
even creepier, there is evidence to suggest that the killer was living there beforehand, because
Ugh.
the original, the first, it was either like a nanny or a housekeeper. She had left because she thought there were ghosts in the house because she was hearing footsteps, and then she left, and then they were hearing footsteps, and then they found a newspaper. Someone was trying to break open into the toolbox, which is where it was a pickaxe, which is where the murder weapon was kept. And then the creepiest part, from the woods, they found footsteps coming towards the house and never
Ugh.
going back out. And then the maid who had died, that was her first day. And I'm like, oh my god. It creeped me out just so much. Like mainly the fact that he was living there before and after. So when I saw the
Yeah.
farmhouse, mainly it was German farmhouse. That was really my only reason why I thought that.
Yeah. No.
There was really
I
no
was kind of getting like.
correlation.
Yeah. No. I was getting like a lot of like really unsettling vibes when like because like in the barn like you see like a bucket like full of milk, like who milked who milked that cow, and you see like like the like chopped down like cherry trees and like
Mm-hmm.
the toys and like the dead dog, and it's like oh, someone's there. It's like someone's been there, and I was half expecting it's like is there like a German like sniper like hiding in the attic, or there's like a couple like uh like refugees or someone like hiding in
Yeah,
the basement. I was expecting like something's about to go down, and it's like ooh, I was really nervous.
yeah, you're on edge for most of this movie, and it's partly it's just because I kind you blame part of it a little bit on the cinematography because you're not seeing that far ahead. But
Yeah,
also
yeah.
yeah, and especially yeah, this scene, you're waiting for someone to jump out or something, and there's not. It's just, and he says like, I don't like this, and I'm like, you could just. There were even shots. There was a scene, so Blake is outside, Schofield's in the house, and just the way the shot was, like you see one of them outside. I was kind of expecting someone to die that way, like you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like that visual, because we've seen that before. So
Yeah, or like someone, or like something like, or like someone running around in like the background. It's like, oh, what was that? Like
Yeah.
I was getting like some like really strong like horror movie, like haunted house style scary
Yes.
movie vibes from this. It's like, oh man, something's gonna go down, because they find evidence of like a recent like fire in like the German trenches, that like someone was there recently, and I thought they were gonna like, oh man, like they're either like the Germans aren't like that far behind, or there's like a couple, like a squad or so that are like kind of like lagging behind, making sure that they set up booby traps for the British so that they're not followed as easily. And I thought that it was gonna like escalate and mount up at the barn at the farmhouse, and it was just very, it's like unsettling because I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if it was going to pay off yet, or if they were going to mount it up a bit longer and showcase that later, which I think they eventually did in a way. Um,
It's interesting. Yeah.
it was just really scary and nerve wracking, and I wouldn't say I was white knuckling it, but it was just very uh, the tension mounted very well there, and I'm really uh, surprised that they were able to do that so well.
The Germans are kind of like, they're kind of like the boogeyman, or they're ghosts, or they're just kind of this looming fear. And until we actually start seeing them, it's like, yeah, we're all just like we're all on edge because of it. So
Yeah,
yeah, they're about to, I'm guessing we're about to leave because there was really nothing else left.
yeah,
They see like two fighter planes, and they shoot down a German, who then, first of all, I gotta say this, the Germans headed towards the farmhouse in the plane, like it's crash landing, and they're
yeah,
running away, and I'm like, and it's the same thing as every movie. I'm like, go wide, don't go straight,
yeah.
don't come in this way. I'm like, go the other way, and then yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was really funny, because, and totally taking this joke from like um CinemaSins, of just like, oh yeah, they got their running degree from the running away from Prometheus school, where in that movie they're running away from this spaceship that's literally like shaped like a donut, like a very like U ring circular shape, and
yeah.
it's falling on its side in its in like the circular pattern, and it's like, you guys are just running straight. It has nowhere to go but straight. You guys
Yeah.
literally need to just split up, or like run the left or right. Pick a side and you will survive. Like run diagonal, but they're literally running straight, and this thing is rolling faster than you.
What movie was the so they're what movie was that? I mean, I know it's Prometheus, but like,
Yeah, that was Prometheus at like the end of the movie.
but what was it? The one saying you must have gotten your running from
Oh,
Prometheus running school.
just like literally every movie where
Every
they're
movie.
running
Oh,
from
okay.
something. Like every movie, like I guess this is like a trope. Like when they're running from something that they can easily avoid by running either left or right, or like diagonally, like kind of like in front of it, like kind of splitting, like picking between like those 2 points. But no, everyone just runs straight from this thing that is significantly taller than how, and is falling much faster than they are running, that they will get crushed. But they make it
Yeah.
at the very last second. It's like, just
In in
just jump
yeah.
right, just jump left.
In movies, it's always they run straight, or
Yeah,
they dodge out of the they dodge out of the way at the last second. It seems like
yeah,
there's rarely any in between. But
yeah, yeah. No, like they're running from something that's like 5 feet wide and 40 feet long. It's like, just take a step right or left. You can make it. This thing is skinnier than you, but it's longer than you. Why are you running?
um so the German plane crash lands into the barn. The plane's on fire. He's screaming for help. They pull him out, and Schofield's like, "Let's just kill him. Let's put him out of his misery." And Blake's like, "No, like, and he's like, go get him water." And then he goes. So Schofield goes to get water, and then Blake has been stabbed by the
By the
German,
German,
and
yeah, the
then
German pilot
Schofield
kills him.
kills him. And then I did not expect it so quick. It was
Yeah,
I thought
I
I kind of had I'm like, well, one of them's probably gonna die, and I realize now I figured it's gonna be the one whose brother who has more of a personal reason for doing this
Yeah,
mission. But at the
yeah.
same,
When I watched it, I thought Schofield was the one who was going to die because the entire movie he was like the pessimist and he was like the realist of war, and like Blake was kind of like naive and like not fully experienced. And I thought that this movie was going to kind of harden him and kind of make him more like adjusted to the horrors of war. And it's like,
I think
oh,
in the
that'll be like a really cool character growth for him.
that yeah, in the back of my mind, I kind of figured it was going to be Blake, but at the same time, I realized I had no reason to think I wasn't. I mean, we had reasons, but I feel like in every trailer, whenever it's either you see the both of them or you see Schofield, like any
Yeah,
trailer, any commercial, and it's really. God, it was pretty sad. Like he stabs and they're trying. He's like, I can help you. I can get you to. There's like a there. I can probably carry you, and he just can't. He's in too much pain, and Blake's just laying there, and he's like, "Am I dying?" And you can see Schofield is just thinking, like,
it's
what am I
like,
supposed to say? Do I lie? Do I say, like, keep saying, no, you're going to be fine? He just says, yes, I think you are. And it's pretty
yeah,
heartbreaking. And I got to, Blake's face is getting whiter and whiter. And then I
yeah,
looked it up, and on IMDb it said, like, because most, I guess, they just die. They don't change. Their skin color doesn't change in movies. But in
yeah,
real life, if you're bleeding out, you're gonna get paler and paler.
yeah.
And
And yeah, that was one aspect that like a small detail of it that I really appreciated, of just like how quickly he's like losing color and like how he's just constantly like losing blood. Like you actually see like the blood like pooling out onto his uniform and onto the ground, and it's like normally in like movies you only like focus on that for like a little bit, but like no, it's like front and
we
center.
wait
You
until
see,
it's done.
yeah,
And I kind
yeah,
of wanted it to be done just because I'm awkward
you're
with grief.
you're not squeamish, but you're not like, let's watch him bleed.
It's not the blood, it's more just like uh I'm weird with grief. And so I kind of want to
Yeah,
just move whenever I know that it's coming. I kind of want to just it to be done with, which is not the best coping mechanism, but it's what I do.
yeah,
But yeah,
fair
we
enough.
just wait, and it's really sad, but it's also he says like, give he gives them the note because he knows he's not gonna be there to deliver the message. He says, "Can you write to my mom?" And which is really like because he just wants her to like, which is
Yeah,
really sad. And then he does die,
yeah. It's
and
like tell her it was quick.
and I
It's
realize
like,
I love
yeah,
that he takes off his like was it
his like
the chain, his rings,
his
like, and
yeah
and
yeah
at the end he gives them to his brother, which at
yeah
the time I was like, that's really. I was wondering, I'm like, is he gonna take like his stuff, like his like
yeah
his water or anything? Would that be insensitive or would that be smart?
yeah yeah. At first, I thought it's like, wait, is he just like grave robbing him? It's like, oh no, wait, he's just taking his dog tags and like his personal effects, and
And
it's
I
like, okay, yeah,
and I
that makes sense.
and I gotta say, I was thinking about this later that Blake's last act, unknowingly, but his last act was to help his enemy. That Schofield wanted to kill him, and not like a in a murdery, but just like they're in a
Yeah,
war and this person is
yeah, like
probably
yeah
dangerous. He
yeah,
wanted.
and
He's
like
like, no, like we should help him. Like his last act was to help, not even just help someone, help his enemy, and yeah, he paid for it. But that was kind of to me like that is like that's who he is, and I just thought that was a really kind of
yeah
beautiful
yeah
thing to
because
show in a
Schofield is like
war.
yeah, because Schofield is like, no, we need to put him out of his misery
And it's
because
not just like, he's
it's
a
not,
German. It's just like, no, they're in
yeah,
a war, and not even like put him out of his misery, like maybe
because the dude's
literally
on
like he's an
fire.
animal, but like
Like the
he
dude is in a plane crash and he's on fire. It's like, let's just put him out of his misery because he's like screaming and yelling. He's yelling "mama" in German.
oh he
Like that's he. At one point, you hear him say like "mama, mama."
oh I didn't hear, I didn't notice, or maybe
Yeah.
I don't know what mama is in German.
Well, I mean,
I
he said something that I
okay,
assume was "mama."
okay. I mean,
I
maybe
don't speak
I
German
didn't
either.
notice
But
it.
yeah, it might have been something else that just happens to sound like "mama," but it just I thought like
It might be
"mama" or like
mama.
"mother"
It would make
it
sense
was
if
just
it was.
yeah yeah.
Um,
I thought that was kind of like a universal thing, like "mama," "papa."
yeah. So then, right after this, we see two new soldiers, and I guess there's an entire yeah, like a platoon or so of.
Yeah, just like a bunch of like British soldiers. Like, no, we're meeting up with like the like our the front for the upcoming attack, but it's like a different part of like the front that he's not going to. So it's like, oh, we can take you like halfway to where
And
you
I
need to go.
love how so we that's where so yeah, they help him, they move Blake somewhere else, and then they basically say, "Hey, we can give you a ride as far as wherever until you need to get off." And this is when we meet Mark Strong, and I really liked his character because they weren't being, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting because he did just watch his friend die, and he basically said to him, like, they kind of were like, they weren't trying to make him feel better, they weren't trying to whatever, but he said it just doesn't do anything to dwell on it, like, you know what I mean, like, so
Yeah,
I really, I don't know, I kind of liked their, they were oh, I liked their reaction. I just thought that
yeah.
it was very, it wasn't get over it, or if I don't know what I'm thinking now, why would I have expected that, like, that's so
Yeah, no,
mean, but
they very much kind of like are like it's like
because he's not the
carry
first
on, like
person that this happened, and he's not going to be the last, but they were being, I thought, just being really, I loved how respectful they were being about it, which I know this sounds weird because but I don't know how else you would be in that
yeah,
situation.
like you can't really comfort someone when death is all around you. It just
Yeah,
you kind of gotta keep calm and carry on, kind of thing. As
yeah.
like cheesy as that is, it's just in war, like you don't have time to process that. You just got to keep going, and I think they showcase that pretty well. It's just like how he's literally sitting in the back of this car, just completely silent, completely like
Well,
kind of
everyone else is talking. This is when we get
yeah,
another probably we get a cut. They like he gets on the truck, and or truck, or what would you call,
yeah. The he gets in like the back of this like giant like truck.
and they
Yeah, it's a truck.
it like kind of zooms in on his back and like jackets. So there I'm like, okay, well, there's a cut in there somewhere. Um and then eventually, I kind of there was this one, there was this one part that I really liked where so the wheel gets stuck in mud and they all get out, and they're trying to push it and it's not going, and he's just like, "No, we're Schofield's just like, we're pushing this." Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
just,
like all right, mate. It's like
and
all
it
right,
made me
give him
think
a
of,
heave.
he was basically just kind of on the verge of tears, like, "No, we have to push this, we have to get going." And I think it made me think of when I was in high school, so it was like in my AP Gov class, and we were doing like some kind of current events, and it had something to do with women in the military, and it was, there were certain things said that were so disappointing to hear. I remember there was one guy was trying very hard not to be biased, which I appreciated,
Yeah,
and one guy said that something about women being emotional, and all of us are like, "Are you shitting me? Are you kidding me?" And someone's
it's
like,
like
"It's emotional because it's war." Like, are you kidding me? And I'm watching this, and he's like on the verge of tears, still trying so hard to keep it together because he knows, yeah, like he knows he's not the first person this has happened to. He will not be the
yeah.
last, and but he still has this mission, and that's all he can do right now. To honor him is to complete this mission. And I was thinking about that, and then I remember somebody else said about how, you have to be like in the physical, it was, I don't remember, I just remember something about like how women have to be strong enough or physically in the shape or something, and I remember I'm the one that commented, I'm like, okay, yes, but a lot of that is adrenaline, and you can do things you ordinarily would not when you're in
Yeah.
a certain situations of crisis. So it was very, all of us girls were just like, are you shitting me right now? Like, when we heard the whole like women are too emotional, we're like, fuck that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
and
like
I'm
no,
watching this and I'm like, this is filled with nothing but emotion. Like, like
yeah,
yes, go.
this is an entirely a character driven story. For half the movie, it just focuses on one guy.
And
It's just
yeah,
like and him like slowly kind of like breaking down, and like at one point in the movie, like at like way later on, like right before he like meets up with like the second battalion or like the it's like I think they're called like the eighth like battalion in like the second company or something like that.
Mhm.
He literally like crawls out of this river after like crawling over a bunch of dead bodies and going down a waterfall. He literally like crawls up on shore and just breaks down and cries and screams, and it's just kind of
Mhm.
like kneeled over and like
Yeah.
punching the ground because he's like he has gone through hell and back
Yeah.
getting to where he is now. And it's like, yeah,
I
that's well
yeah.
deserved. You deserve that. You take time for
Yeah.
you, man.
So so before that scene, so the scene he arrives, basically the trucks stop at this small town. He's like, and he's like, well, he has to get off there. And so there's this broken bridge and like part of it's underwater. And he decides to climb on the like railing to cross and he's going to jump. And just as he
Yeah,
jumps, like there's a shot. And my dad, he was like, he made some comment and I'm like, was it that he didn't swim? And he's like, no, I just think why would he have stood up? Wouldn't he just want to slide down? Which I'm like, fair enough, but I feel like walking would probably quicker. And my dad was also made the
yeah.
comment, he's like, I told like he right when they took the German out of the plane and Schofield ran to go get water, he's like, I saw a knife, and I'm like, what? Like, and I'm like, I didn't even see the knife. Like, I didn't think about that at all. And this scene, and yeah, and there's somebody up in the building just just above the bridge,
Yeah,
and it
ta
becomes
ta
like, yeah,
taking shots at him. It's just like, yeah, there's a German sniper up there, but he eventually gets up there and like he fires like a full clip of like his gun in there and just like tries to take him out. And he goes up there to like make sure to like confirm his kill. And when he gets up there, he shoots the German, but at the same time, the German shoots his helmet, causing him to fall down the stairs and get knocked out.
okay,
And that's
that's
where
what hit
and that's where
him.
yeah,
Okay, I was
and that's when we see like the only like confirmed cut in the movie because it
when
goes completely to black.
oh my god, so he wakes up. So he wakes up, yeah, the soldier's dead. Is all of his stuff gone or is his stuff still with him? Because I
His
realized
his stuff's still with him. He just kind of like slowly like lose like he doesn't pick up his helmet or anything. He just like slowly just kind of picks up what he needs to make sure that he's still like light and mobile.
so this is when so the cinematography and the lighting and the coloring is unbelievable. So it become like, or I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but he's like, but yeah, so we're seeing all these like flares going on. It's like so super bright, like you can't even see the sky. Like I was even wondering, I'm like, is it night? Is it just something going? Like you can't even tell. And he ends up course, Germans spot him and he's running, and I'm wondering,
Yeah,
I'm like, why doesn't he shoot him? And then I realized, I think there was a point where he didn't have his gun. You
yeah,
kind of just don't notice. He just is losing his stuff, and I didn't even
yeah. No,
notice.
no. At one point, he like puts his gun down because he runs into a German like right next to him, so he has to like kill him with his hands. Like he
Oh,
has to
damn.
strangle him,
Okay.
and then another German spots him, and he doesn't have time to get his gun, so he just books it. And then at this point, he doesn't have a gun for the rest of the movie.
Was that before or after he is? So I think that's after he runs. A German is trying to chasing him. He finds a place to hide.
Yeah,
There's a woman.
this is after that. Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, there's a woman and a baby, and the baby's not hers. She doesn't know whose it is, but
yeah,
and and he's singing the song to the baby, and I realized, so we'll kind of jump ahead. We find out at the very end, the very last scene, he has a wife and kids, and we don't really know anything about him. He other than clearly he's very, war has kind of changed his perception on things
yeah.
and how
He's very low on like morale, and he's just it's like I'm so tired of
like,
this.
why did you give up your ribbon? He's like, because to him, I think I kind of saw it as it's because if he died, he didn't want that just being like, oh, this is what his family gets of him.
Yeah, because he even says like throughout multiple times like it's just a bit of like tin and ribbon. So he like
Yeah.
traded it for some French wine with some French like captain or something.
And I just thought that whole scene was really sweet. And he finds out he's in the right. So there's basically the directions. It's like a couple of miles north or south of this town. So he's in the right
Yeah,
town. He just now. And then, so yeah, so there's the part he's like, he gets out of there. He's creeping. I think, yeah, before when he kills, he strangles somebody. It's pretty, but
yeah,
it's a silhouette. So I honestly thought that the other one was. I didn't think he was dead. I thought he was being. I thought the
You
other
thought he was
person.
being overpowered.
Yes, because you can't
Okay.
see, and then I'm like, oh wait, it's probably him on top.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
sees this.
Scoville wins.
He sees this German who's super drunk and throwing up, and I would have just probably. I mean, he doesn't know. He decides to go around, and then there's another German who is about to, uh,
he literally like runs right next to a German who like is just finished like taking a leak.
and
It's like,
he,
oh,
yeah,
I've been spotted, and then he like tries to like, it's like, all right, you better be quiet, you better be quiet,
and
and
he's
then the
like,
dude
yeah,
yells
sure,
out,
and then he starts
and
crying.
then yeah, and then he strangles him, and then the other German spots him like immediately after he's killed this guy,
But
and
he's
then
so
he books
drunk,
it.
he just
Yeah,
books it past him. And then this
yeah,
is when just the cinematography was just so phenomenal. He's just running through this town. He doesn't have any weapons. He doesn't have people are shooting at him. And as it's like bright orange from like the flares, which I gotta say, watch. It's on YouTube. It's called like how 1917 was made to look at one shot. They talk about this, and it's really I don't. It was like they had to time it out. Like it was really interesting. But he runs out of the town, and the lighting from like the orange of like the fires and the smoke, the flares
yeah.
changes to like this blue, and it was just so pretty. And he then jumps, and I love this part because we don't see that there's that this is the
A
end of
cliff,
the
yeah.
road. He
Yeah,
just that's
he
what
literally jumps off like this giant cliff into this ravine and follows the river all the way down to
where he needs to go. That's why I
yeah, where
love
he needs
it.
to go.
That's why I love the cinematography so much because we're not seeing ahead. So we don't know what's ahead. We don't know. We're not prepared. Like it's just surprise, surprise, surprise. And I loved
Yeah.
it. And yeah, he's going down. Then there's again based on his reaction. We're not seeing ahead, but based on his reaction, I figured, oh, there's a waterfall. There's a waterfall. He then reaches the
Yeah.
very end, and yeah, this is when there's all these dead bodies just lining like this. It's like this like dam of sticks, and I found out later. I read on IMDb that was supposed to kind of be like, so I guess the river Styx in uh in hell,
Greek mythology.
which
Yeah.
yeah, okay, see, it said hell, which I'm like, I didn't know that was in hell. I thought that was just Greek mythology, like witches in the underworld. Like so I was, but
Yeah.
I mean that's irrelevant. I mean either way,
But yeah, he goes down like this entire river, and like for him to get out, he has to crawl over all these dead bodies and like corpses that are just like bobbing in the water, and it's like that is like a horrifying
by this
like
point
kind of like
though,
mess up thing. Yeah, I mean,
he's
yeah.
just
By
like
this point,
whatever.
he's like, it's like, okay, if this gets me across, fine. But it's haunting to think that like he's just crawling over these like dead bodies. It's like, oh, that's so weird.
He then he gets out and he just kind of lets it out and cries and screams, and then we start hearing music, and on IMDb it's the same thing. So that's supposed to the body's supposed to symbolize like the river Styx, and then it said it was supposed to for a second supposed to kind of sound like a heroic epic, which is why
Yeah,
like there's so he just sees this giant battalion, and there's somebody singing, and he just it's so honestly like he just lays down. He's just so just done and
done.
exhausted, and they ask, and people are like, are you okay, like what's wrong, and he asks like what's
Like
they're like,
it's
oh,
like
we're the first
it's like
wave, they're the
it's like what?
and he
It's
really
like
and
we're
he
the second
just
wave. The first wave's already in the trench. Like I need to go.
and he just and he's just pushing people aside, and so he's just running around, where's your commander, where's your commander, where's Commander Mackenzie, and everyone's trying to point him in the right direction or tell him like go away, whatever. He
Yeah,
then the most probably the famous scene in the movie, he gets out of the trench.
and runs alongside it
So first my dad
right as
commented
the
later,
first
he
wave
starts
goes.
walking and then he's running, and my dad's like, why would he be walking? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know. There's no, I guess there is a reason to run, but at the same time, no one's around. There's not like, I don't know. I didn't.
I think he was trying to psych himself up for it. It's like this is crazy. I'm gonna get shot. I haven't gotten shot yet. He's
Yeah,
like, all right, I'm gonna start running,
I
and then the first wave goes like, oh, now I need to book it.
and I kind
Like
of
there
blame
wasn't
and
that sense of urgency
Yeah.
right before he got out there. He was like kind of still trying to like psych himself up, just like, this is suicide. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Or I need to run. I need to run. Everyone's running now. Is like, I need a book and I need to get to the commander right now.
And again, back to the cinematography. I think there's all these little, so like, yeah, like his walking as opposed to his running, the leaving, not noticing a knife. There's all these little things that I feel like if this was any other movie, we would be, I would be for sure complaining about why are these all these mistakes happening. These seems really stupid to me because I don't know. It just bothers me when there are these really sloppy mistakes. But here, it didn't really bother me because to me it was like they're people, they're human.
Yeah,
So it did not bother me in this movie, which I'm like, okay, good. But yeah, he books it, and so you know, so there's, he's running, he bumps into somebody, gets up, and then bumps into someone again, and I kind of laughed at the second time because I'm like, this just happened, like, so I was
yeah,
kind of laughing, but then if I know that was not in the script, he just he was just bumping into extras, and you know, it would have taken a lot to just start over, so they just kept going. But
yeah.
it worked.
It seemed supernatural, just like him
Yeah.
running around, and it's just like, yeah, no, all this is really cool.
He finally reaches the commander, and then people won't let him in, and he's like, no, like this is, I have a message from General Aaron. Like he's just so done. He pushes past them, and
Yeah,
Benedict Cumberbatch, who is
he literally breaks into the command tent. And it's like, who the, and like he
Commander
even goes like,
Mackenzie.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, who the hell are you? It's like, what the hell do you think you're doing here? It's like, I have orders from the general, stop this attack. It's like, no, we're already pushing through the front line. It's like, no, the Germans planned this.
But yeah, he's Benedict Cumberbatch, so he's Commander Mackenzie, and you can see he's kind of like a little bit like Schofield, where he's seen a bunch, he's made mistakes before, he doesn't want to keep making more, and then finally he sees the note and realizes that if he keeps going, this is going to be a really horrible mistake, and he says, "Okay, call it off. Like we got to stop." And
Yeah,
it's
it's
just,
like
and then it's just, oh my god, he did it. Oh my gosh! But then what's his next task? He has to go find Lieutenant
his,
Blake,
yeah, he has to find Blake's brother to let him know. It's like, your brother died. I'm sorry.
and it's super sad. And then he's like, "I'm with the Eighth," and he's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I was sent with your brother." He's like, "Oh, is Tom here?" And he's like, it
No,
was no, and I love the Richard. He's trying again. He's crying, but trying not to cry. And he's like, tells him, he's like, it was quick, and like I was with him, and he gives him his rings and necklace, and he says like he wanted me to write to your mother, and he's
it's like,
like, yeah, okay, and he gives him like, and he then goes and sits against a tree just like it was in the beginning, which I thought was I really liked that ending. I thought it was really uh beautiful, a really beautiful way to end it. And then that's when we
yeah,
find out he has a wife and kids, and like, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
oh, okay. So that's pretty much the end of the movie. It's it's it's
It
really solid.
It
I
it is a phenomenal movie. I was fully going into this movie expecting, it was like, oh, this is going to be kind of like a war epic, kind of like glorifying the war. But it's like, no, it's literally just a story of these guys delivering the mail. It's as simple as that, of them trying to get from point A to point B to give this letter to a colonel.
it could be. I kind of knew going into it because I had had heard enough good things about it, and pretty much ever since it was announced, where it was the trailer was out or the big thing was, oh, this looks like one single shot. I was pretty much that the cinematography alone was why I wanted to see it. And
Yeah,
so I was really excited. And yeah, it's like we said, it's a single one major linear storyline, and it was really entertaining. I definitely wasn't bored or anything. Um, my dad he's like, I thought some parts were slow. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. I wasn't bored, so I didn't really have an
yeah,
issue with
no,
it.
it was slow, but like in the moments where it was slow, there was like racking tension of like,
Yes.
if like a German can like pop out of like a trench that they didn't see, or a crater, and just
Hmm.
like try to blow them away.
Yeah. Um, I definitely recommend going to see this movie. Like, it's pretty high score on Rotten Tomatoes. It's definitely like I want to say it's like 97 or something. I'm not looking at it right
I
now.
I wouldn't be surprised. It is a phenomenal movie. Not only just a good movie in general, but just cinematically, just watching like all the sets and locations, just watching like as he's like walking along the trench, like trying to find the Colonel Mackenzie. It is such an amazing shot. Just look up some of like the photographs of this movie. You will not be so disappointed. Watch it if you need to. Like you need to see this movie as soon as possible before it gets to the Oscars
Which
because
it says nominated at least 10 times. I think
yeah,
it's going to win Best Picture. I think it's definitely going
yeah,
to win best cinematography, and
yeah,
I'm I wouldn't be surprised if it wins best. I don't know, best director. If it's not, I think Sam Mendes has a really nice shot of
yeah,
winning, but there are a
yeah,
lot of good directors this year.
yeah. But of the three movies that I saw for Best Picture, that being Joker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and 1917. I think 1917 is my favorite so far, and I think this
I
one
agree.
it is probably going to win Best Picture.
Mm.
Just from the section I've seen so far, I haven't seen Irishman, Ford versus Ferrari, or Parasite, or Jojo Rabbit,
Or
or
Marriage Story.
Marriage
I
Story.
want to
Thank
watch
you.
Marriage Story. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
good things about Parasite, though.
I've heard excellent things about Parasite, and I really wanted to see Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, I'm starting to want to. I want to see it. It's a interesting story with,
Yeah.
but I like just the fact that like pretty much any scenario when Hitler's being made fun of is always hilarious.
Yeah.
Like the producers, the biggest reason why the show is a success is because
Oh. Yeah. Or
it was supposed to be like a love letter to Hitler, but then uh the the guy who was
yeah.
going to play him couldn't do it, so then it was turned into like Hitler was super flamboyant and like,
Yeah.
and it just,
It's
yeah.
yeah. Don't they play like the songs like "Springtime
Yes.
for Italy"? Yeah, it's like that's the only part
We
that
should
I really
definitely do.
remember.
I've seen part of the original producers. I've seen the musical, which it's really entertaining. But yeah, so they basically, the director who's gay and flamboyant and whatnot ends up playing Hitler because he knows all the lines, and it just becomes him of them making fun of him. So that's
Yeah,
why it's successful, because in the beginning they all think it's just, oh my god, it's just like a, what the hell, and then, oh no, it's just making fun of it. Which,
it's like, oh, okay,
yeah.
this is fine. This is fine. We're okay now.
So yeah, and yes, we cannot encourage you enough to go see 1917. I feel like we should have said this in the beginning, but as for most of our movies, if you don't want spoilers, and I'll probably put this in our like details bit, but if you
Yeah,
don't want to get spoilers, then maybe don't listen
yeah,
to said whatever podcast
yeah,
until
yeah,
you're,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If you haven't seen a movie that is the title of this podcast and you haven't seen it, don't watch it. Like, what are you doing watching this, listening to this when you haven't seen the movie?
I've only
It's
done
gonna
that.
go
I
into
do that for
spoilers.
bad movies, but sometimes I'll be like, it'll be a podcast where I'm like, I know this movie's bad, but I still want to see it. I don't really want to hear any spoilers.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
but also at the same time, it's your fault for watching a movie that you haven't, a podcast on a movie you haven't seen. That's entirely your fault.
yeah.
Do not blame us for that.
Um.
um. So yeah, that being
So
said,
wait, actually, do we want
yeah.
to any? So a couple of trailers have been coming
Oh
out.
yeah, yeah.
So
Spiral.
was
Um,
that, did that just drop this morning?
I think that dropped either this morning or last night. Well, within 24 hours, that just dropped,
Yeah.
and that is a spin-off of see what I did there? Spiral spin-off. Ha ha ha! I'm clever. Oh, you can make puns, but I can't. All right, I see how it is.
Fine.
I can I get at least one pun. But yeah, that is a spin-off of the Saw franchise, starring Chris Rock and Samuel Jackson.
What a
And
weird combo. I mean,
yeah, and it's also kind of weird seeing Chris Rock going
in
into
a
a more
serious role.
yeah,
There was a part in the trailer where I don't know, I was kind of, it was weird to see him being so serious. Like I was kind of expecting him to like I don't know, it was just it was different. Was
Yeah,
that
I
like
was half expecting him to kind of like make like a bit of a joke, like kind of like funny banter with like his like
yeah.
partner, because like he's a detective and he just got like a new detective partner. It's like, oh, is he gonna make like some like funny like witty banter? It's like, no, this is actually like pretty mundane stuff, and he's like very serious, like, oh, we need to find this killer. They're targeting cops. It's like, and then you see Samuel L. Jackson, and he's like going around. It's like, shit's gonna hit the fan real quick, and then you eventually hear him say, all right, motherfucker, you want to play a game?
So the trailer I watched, it said like all right, and it just like got quiet at motherfucker, which based
Yeah,
on Samuel L. Jackson, I was pretty confident what he was saying, but I
yeah,
thought it was hilarious that it just got quiet right then. Like
yeah.
what is this, Avengers?
It was just really funny because it's like, ah, he said the thing.
I said the he said
He
nothing
said
that he
the
said that. Oh,
thing. Because like,
SLJ. Yeah.
uh, what a treasure.
What a treasure, yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. I admittedly have only seen like maybe like one or two Saw movies, and I don't even remember how many there are. There's probably like 8 now, and this will
I've
probably be like the ninth.
I haven't
I doubt.
seen any
I,
Saw movies.
yeah, that does not surprise me at all.
I remember when we were a couple of years ago, it was like, and it came up, and I thought, and you guys, it was like, no, it's Saw. It's like, so I think Jigsaw was coming out, and
Yeah.
you guys were like, no,
Yeah.
it's like Saw. I'm like, oh, I thought it was somebody with a saw that's going like, ah, like just, like I
Yeah,
didn't,
no. Jigsaw is the name of the serial killer in the Saw series.
okay. So
Yeah,
it's, okay.
even though, even though he technically doesn't kill anyone, or at least in like the first one that I saw, he technically isn't a murderer. He doesn't kill anyone directly. He just puts them in situations where they live or die by their choices. Because like I'm putting them in a situation because I think they did something bad, and then he just throws them in situations like, all right, there's a key behind your eye. You have to take this screwdriver to remove your eye to get the key. If you don't, the bear trap around your head will close and you will die. Live or die, you choose.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
No, there's sort of ish an episode of Castle like that where where they're in like, so Castle's trapped with two other men and Beckett's trapped with two other women, and they're in like a classroom, and it's like an escape room type thing, but like there's
Yeah.
a gun, but it turns out if you use the gun, you're gonna die. Like it'll backfire on you, and like
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's kind
Yeah.
of it's weird.
It's just a bunch of like sadistic mind games because like literally the first movie is a situation. These two guys are like chained to like these like pipes in like this like really like gross looking bathroom, and in the middle of the room it's like a dead body with a tape recorder and a saw, and it's like they can't cut through the they can't take the saws to cut through like the their chains. The only thing that they can cut through is their foot. So it's like, all right, how badly do we want to escape?
No.
Yeah.
Remember, I don't know, it's made me think of remember the movie Truth or Dare?
I know of it. I haven't seen
Yeah.
it though.
So, first of all, I remember reading an article where Lucy Hale was saying, like, how this movie was different because you really feel for these characters. And I just kind of snapped. I'm like, this movie is different because it's doing the job of a movie. I, like, lost my mind. But also,
Yeah.
every time people, whenever before it comes out and they say that it's different, it usually isn't. It's usually them just trying to make it different, and it's not. But anyway, we on the other movie reel on our old show, we would sometimes play like music or something from YouTube, and guess what? Commercials, and it was a commercial for Truth or Dare, and
Yeah.
we were on live, and then I think on air, like from the commercial, it was for Truth or Dare, and it was, what does it want you to do? Sleep with Lucas. And I like cut it really quick, but it was too late. It was already out, and we were both just, I feel like we were more laughing than, oh
Yeah,
no.
it was just really funny. It's like, oh no, they said a thing.
But I don't know, it made me think of that, which that movie, I don't know if I want it. To me, even when they're bad, horror movies are, they're still like a horror movie. Even if it's crappy,
Yeah.
I still get creeped out. Like,
I mean, there's a couple like bad horror movies that
Like
are still really fun. Like,
The Happening's terrible. I know it's terrible, but
oh,
the panic everybody is like, that's what stresses me out.
yeah, but
Like
no, like, but if you get like movies like Wolf Cop, it is just no, that is a real
we're
movie.
watching
It
it
is it is
next week, guys. Wolf
hilarious.
Cop.
Oh my god! All right, fine. You
I
heard it
mean,
here first, folks. We're watching
actually,
Wolf Cop.
I mean, maybe if we can find it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. But no, a movie that I kind of want to do, and it's like one of the movies that I've gotten a recommendation for quite a bit is The Turning. Now, I saw this in theaters with my girlfriend, and I was expecting this movie to be pretty
Scary.
fun. I was expecting it to be like kind of scary, and it's like it's got Finn Wolfhard in it, and I absolutely love him. He's
Mhm.
the guy who played
Mike
uh
on Stranger
Mike.
Things.
Yep, yeah, Mike on Stranger Things. Um, he is a phenomenal actor in this movie. He is by far the best thing about this entire movie. Now, I don't know if you're ever going to see it, so I'm going to kind of do like a mini review of it right now, just real
Fine.
quick. This movie, the entire movie is Finn and his sister are like two like orphan kids living in like this like crazy mansion. They're more or less being raised by like this um like their maid who's like pretty much like taking care of them since like their
Alfred
parents
style.
died. Kinda, yeah. And so they hired this nanny who's kind of going to be like the private tutor for like the little girl, and a bunch of like weird like supernatural stuff's going on. It's like, okay, this is kind of funny, and they kind of like allude to the fact that it's like, oh, like the last nanny left without saying a word. No one's seen or heard from her since, and the oh, we took care of our stable boy because he was drunk and wouldn't leave the other nanny alone. And they keep alluding to the fact that um, there's like a ghost here, and it's the ghost of the stable hand who like may or may not have like raped or had like or like did something to the previous nanny and then killed her.
Not
Um,
cool.
yeah, not cool. But they also keep trying to like make you think that the like the current nanny is going crazy because her mother is in like a mental institution because she's like completely crazy, and they keep making it think that is this actually happening or is this all in the nanny's head, and it just keeps mounting up to that, and it gets to like the climax of the movie where it's like, oh no, there's actually a ghost, and like the ghost is like trying to like kill her and like trying to like mess with the kids, and like Finn is like been like a complete ass to her the entire time. It's like, get out of here, like you don't belong here, like this is my house, you don't belong here, and just like messing with her like mentally, and like spying on her and just doing like a bunch of like really creepy stuff that is like slowly kind of like breaking her down. But like she eventually like convinces him like, no, like how long until he like goes after your sister, and it's like, all right, fine. So he like she like gets both of those kids out of there, and we find out that that entire climax was all happening inside her head, and then the next 10 minutes of the movie completely erases like any form of like suspense or urgency in the movie by making you think that the entire time this nanny has just gone insane, and this she just finally snapped, and then
So
nothing
she's
comes of that.
insane. So it's kind of
She's
like
insane.
Shutter Island.
Yeah, but Shutter Island was fun.
This Shutter Island was good. Yeah.
Yeah, Shutter Island was good because you didn't know that. This entire movie, they like keep, oh,
Oh, they
maybe she's
keep making
crazy.
you think, oh, maybe, but then
Yeah,
she is.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
stupid.
It was. It was just the entire like last 10 minutes of this movie completely like erases the urgency or any like mounting tension, or they pretty much just like make her, it's like, oh, we need to get out of here, we need to get out of here. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, you saw the ghost, didn't you? Like, what are you talking about? And she's literally like jumping at her own shadows, and she like breaks down and cries. It's like, oh, we need to get out of here, she's broken just like your doll, because she like accidentally dropped the little girl's doll, and that's how the movie ends.
Ah,
It's
okay.
like, this is garbage. I absolutely hated that movie, and do not go see that. I we literally left that movie, and at the time, it had a 13% on Rotten Tomato.
So low.
It's like oh my god, I knew it was. I kind of have expected this movie. Is like, this is probably going to be an okay movie. I was not expecting it to be that bad because like up until like the last 10 minutes, the movie's pretty solid. It's a pretty good supernatural haunted house movie, and then you get the last 10 minutes. If they edited out the like last 10 minutes, that movie would have been fine.
That was like the movie The Tourist with Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie,
Oh yeah,
and then the ending, which has it was like kind of okay, and then there was this major twist, and we're like, what? Like
yeah.
that was.
I haven't seen that, but I remember my cousin talking about that like a
I just
fair
remember I was
amount.
at the time I was just so obsessed with Johnny Depp that I'm like my friend, I'm like, we gotta go see this. We gotta go see The Tourist. But it wasn't. It was. We should do one on it because it's a. I haven't seen it since.
Yeah,
Um,
I do want to see that. Yeah.
um, just thinking we should do at some point after Wolf Cop, we should do a month where we do only cop. So like RoboCop, Wolf Cop,
Oh, I'm
Samurai
down.
Cop.
I'm down.
All
All
right,
right. So I guess we kind of have the next lineup for the next couple episodes. So
maybe.
stay tuned, folks. But yeah,
Or do
leave
we?
a like. Yeah, yeah. But if you guys are watching this on YouTube, like leave a like, subscribe, comment on what other movies you guys want us to do. If you guys are watching it other ways
Apple,
on
same
iTunes,
thing.
yeah,
On iTunes, I don't think you can comment on Spotify.
yeah.
Um,
If you're watching it on a platform where you can comment or leave a suggestion or like it, please do all those things. We appreciate it, and it helps us grow.
like I saw on Spotify, we have I don't know if we have a listener or had a listener in the Netherlands, which I'm like, oh wow,
Oh,
we're
well,
we're
thank
spreading
you,
far
one
and
person
wide.
in the Netherlands. We appreciate you.
All right, I'm Samantha Tomlinson.
I'm Kevin Tracy, and this has been Movie Reel. Till next time, folks. Bye.